Jemima, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And I don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to practice what you teach, which is meeting the present moment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Mm-hmm.
So for those of you listening, Jemima House is a connection coach. She is someone that has been on my radar and in my life over the last few months. And I'm really feeling my heart as I share this with you because she's been a friend and a mentor, and we don't even know each other that well. But in the short time that we have, we've connected on a heart level. She is a longtime yoga teacher. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. She is all about the embodiment of truth and about being an energetic match for what you desire in your life. And Jemima, I absolutely love your writing. I love the way that you express yourself. I love what you do in the world. And I'm really grateful to be sitting with you here today and having this conversation.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel very close to you, even though we've never actually met in person.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't spent loads of time together, but it's been very deep and yeah, really, really good.
Yeah. There's been a resonance. Yeah. So I want to invite you to share, as someone who does self-connection work, connection in relationships, I would love for you to just share a little bit about what your path has been, how you've been brought to this work, right? Mm-hmm. Through forces in your life and experiences. I would love for you to share some of that.
Sure. Okay. So if I go all the way back to the beginning, I remember being very small, and I remember always wanting to do things that I was told were dangerous, like climb on high stuff or, just be out in the wild. And I was very much in my body and really aware that I felt safe there from a young age. But then that started to change as I got older. There were a lot of different influences, and some of which were very strictly religious, which are really constricting to an embodied sense of self.
Yeah.
They were, in my case, they were anyway. So I guess I kind of escaped up into my mind. And I've always been really creative. I've always loved writing since a really young age. And that was a way for me to start to interpret what I was feeling and what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
So that was although it was an escape, it was also really useful and just felt so good. And it was only, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, I started to kind of identify with, oh yeah, I'm a writer. It was almost weird to me that was true, but it is true. It's part of what I do.
Can you describe for the listeners what you felt having grown up in a Christian household, how you felt you were, how I'm seeing it, being sort of pulled out of your body?
Well, it was a very frustrating sense of having my reality denied. There was a very strong feeling of just being suppressed and pushed down. Whereas everything that I felt had like a quality of innocence and freedom, and even the I was very aware of my sexuality from a super young age, probably 10 or 11. And just this sense that like, that's not okay. It's not okay to be that. So, real like harsh sense of maybe abandonment, maybe like, or definitely conditional love.
Yeah.
You're okay as long as you're not like that.
Right. Do these things and get the goodies, get the love, get the belonging. Yeah.
Yes. So it was very much this idea of like, I could do those things and be loved and accepted, but that would mean I had to abandon myself.
Yes.
Or I could come back to myself and I could be true to myself, but I would lose everything and everybody that I knew and loved.
Right.
Like, fuck. Right. Sorry. What a choice.
And you totally get to say fuck.
Okay, good. I just remembered we were recording. But what a choice.
What a choice. And how many of us experience that dilemma as children? Yeah. I feel very much so many people that I work with are in that bind of having to choose themselves or choose to be loved. Like, how fucked up is that?
Yeah. And it wasn't until adulthood that I really started to understand the attachment styles and codependency and just to have a name for the coping mechanisms that I had installed in order that I could be part of something, part of a family.
Right. Yes.
As like a meaningful person in my experience.
Yeah.
It was a big deal when I learned about that. I was just like, wow, okay, that's what happened.
And even understanding on the nervous system level, like you as a yogi, understanding the body and the wisdom of the body, understanding on the nervous system level what is happening and how it's driving behavior in relationships.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I learned so much later on in my yoga teaching about the nervous system, about the vagus nerve, about how our body responds to yoga and meditation, to asana, to the actual physical practice.
Yeah.
These are doctors and people who are putting their subjects in fMRI machines and going, it is real, what yogis had known for thousands of years. Suddenly it's like the medical profession are catching up and going, but in a way it was, felt quite comforting, because at least then maybe you have something to show people who wouldn't take the evidence any other way. Makes sense.
Yes.
I mean, and it certainly informed the way that I approach life, is this idea of if I'm okay in my body, then I've got my internal compass and my internal strength, and then I know I'm going to be okay whatever the outside brings. Which is real self-mastery.
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's such an important thing to drill, not to drill, but to emphasize here, is like, external circumstances will always be fluctuating and moving. And the self-mastery, as you call it, is about responding to the moment, not necessarily trying to control, push, pull, but to be with what is, and to have the external meet this grounded internal place.
And it's only when you have that deep inner knowing that you can do that.
Yes.
When you stop needing to control.
Right.
It falls away. It falls away so much more. It's like you see it for what it is. It's like, I don't need to manipulate this situation, because I know I'm going to be okay, whatever happens.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm bracing against it or I refuse to feel it. I'm going to go there, you know, I'm going to feel it all, but I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think. That's the
Yeah.
difference between self-mastery and just being this brittle, kind of like stoic person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Armoring and just anchoring down and just, right?
Yeah.
Which is its
Yeah.
own defense system, but of being affected, being moved by life, being moved by your relationships, feeling it all.
Yeah.
And still grounding and co-creating and moving with. It's a relationship, right?
Yes.
This response to life is like a parallel process to how you teach about relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything. We're in relationship with everything.
Yes.
You know, we have a relationship with anything that we consider to be external to us. Not just people, you know, circumstances, scenarios, our work, our service in the world. And how we do one thing is how we do everything. So
yes, so true.
Yeah. So the quicker we figure it out, the better, you know.
One thing I'm so grateful to you for, that you came into my life just as I was entering some romantic partnerships, was the thing that you had shared when you were in a clubhouse meeting or offering, where you talked about allowing the relationship to unfold like on its own, without your agenda, again, pushing or pulling, without manipulation, and that the relationship is its own thing and it moves at its own pace, and that your invitation is to show up in what it is and to just be with it. And that is something that I have so taken to heart, and I've been practicing, and it's been like a fucking miracle. It feels like where God meets sex, like it's just spirit meets sex. I mean, it's like amazing. It's amazing. And so I would love for you to share more about how you see that process, and yeah, what excites you about that? What is alive for you about that?
Well, you make me sound really wise, for one thing.
You are.
I don't
you
remember
are
saying that. I don't remember saying that. But I do have a very strong sense of the third entity of relationship.
Yes.
So for me, my preferred way is monogamous and with a male partner. That's the way that I'm wired. And I see the energy of the relationship as something that is made up of, it's made up of your agreements with each other, but it's also as if there's like a container that is the relationship that needs to be honored.
Yeah.
And yeah, how you each show up for that is so integral to how you interact with each other. And I don't know, it feels a bit cosmic when I'm trying to explain it with words, but I really know it to be true in that there is something that is holding the interaction of the two of us together. And it feels like it's weighty, you know, and it has this gravitas, and it ought to be honored.
Like an energy bubble of sorts, or like, you know, the whatever it is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's edgy to kind of surrender to, as you described it, this allowing things to run their course, allowing people to be who they are.
Yes.
You know, because when you give up your agenda, you are laying yourself open to like, well, it might not go my way.
Right.
You know? And that can be very difficult to not brace against.
Yes, because
Very
it hits
difficult.
into all of the fucking attachment shit where you're like,
Yeah.
I want the belonging. I want to be affirmed. I want to be validated. But you don't, there's no fucking guarantee of that when you approach relationships in this way.
That's it. And that's where the mastery comes in, because there has to be something inside you that is stable enough and strong enough to lean back on, so that you know, like, okay, if this goes how I don't want it to go, I'm going to be okay eventually.
Yeah.
It's still going to sting, still going to really hurt, but I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just a constant journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that is a practice.
Yeah.
For me, the letting go is a practice anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from those kind of attachment styles of like, I need it to be okay. I need you to validate me, to tell me I'm okay. You know, it can feel, like I say, really edgy.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've experienced really recently as well, is the dissolving of a partnership that was very precious to me.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. Like, all of this work doesn't mean that it's not going to hit you. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It just means that you are not going to make it about you. You know?
Right. That you're not going to be in story.
That is worth something, you know?
Yeah. And that you're not going to be in story about it.
No, that's it.
Right.
No, like I don't need to make it about me. I don't need to make it about my worthiness or my rightness or anything like that. There's an acceptance in, as you described earlier, you know, when you're in that space of you're allowing people to be their sovereign selves and not playing into manipulation, then there's a grace that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the self-mastery is the strength that will back you up in that.
Yes.
Going while it's really hard.
Yeah. So I want to come back to story versus truth.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I would love for you to talk about, like, what is your process of self-mastery? What does that look like for you on a daily basis for those listening? Like, what has that process look like in the journey? Mm-hmm. And what does it look like on a daily basis?
Okay. So on a daily basis, it means that I have this, I don't know how this happens now, but I have this awareness of what my mind is doing while I am being. So it's almost like I can track the movement of my mind, and I can track where it's going. It's like, oh, it's going down a rabbit hole. Oh dear, you know, or oh, we're good today. And the management of my mind then takes priority. And sometimes that means that I need to get into my body. And sometimes it means that I need to kind of recondition the pathways of the mind by listening to guided meditations or doing appreciation journaling, or, you know, though it's almost like this constant kind of tweaking of the wiring.
Yes.
And that's something that I rely very heavily on, especially like while I'm dealing with something that feels like a challenge. That comes first. Always.
Yeah.
You know, it's not to the point where sometimes, you know, work takes such a back seat that then maybe like the money goes down and there are all other kind of problems, but they're secondary. Because unless I can manage myself, like, I can't manage anything.
Yeah.
So that has to be my priority.
I think of the process as like curating, right? Like you're sort of like observing what comes in and you're like, oh no, I'm going to take that down. I'm going to put this up instead, right? But just like observing and discarding, like, oh, that doesn't go there, or insert this better, more affirming message, or and tracking what happens in the body along with the thoughts and the stories and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, there are times where, especially, I know I've spoken with you a bit about grief. There are times where there's no energy to get into the body other than to rest. And a good friend of mine described, she gave me an analogy that really helped me. She said, sometimes when you're getting taken down by grief, it's like being in the sea, and you don't have the power to swim, but you can float.
Yes.
So you just float on your back. And that helped me so much.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, right, we're floating for this hour, you know?
Right. Because even the struggling to swim and keep your head above water, like people drown in that. Yeah. But if you float, you surrender and you are taken and moved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So that has felt really good. Forgot what I was going to say before that.
You were talking about what self-mastery looks like on a daily basis. And I had also asked like the trajectory, like what has been pivotal on your path of self-mastery and sovereignty?
Oh, yes. Okay. So years and years ago, when I first was introduced to yoga, I'm talking like 25 years ago, it was like an epiphany to me that I could do something other than drink a bottle of wine to feel better. You know? Wow, this is amazing. And yeah, then I kind of tried to find the best teachers that I could, as in, you know, who felt good to me.
Yeah.
The class and would be like, yeah, I can really feel this is like an amazing practice. And then after that, some years after that, when I developed my own home practice, that's when things started to really shift. Because that's when I really took ownership of that practice. And it, you know, then it was not about anyone else doing something for me or to me. It was me taking command. And that was huge. So yeah. And that's something that I still teach now. I still teach, you know, all the different modalities and little things I picked up along the way. I teach daily practice as part of my offerings, because I know how pivotal it is in terms of making that link between, oh, if I do this, then I get this outcome, you know, and it's like you finish the loop.
Yeah.
And you know how they say, like, the recommendation if you're super depressed is like, pick a task that you can start and complete. And it's the same with a practice. It's like, pick something that you can intend and you can start and you can complete. So you have this full circle experience, and you have something that you can then put away in your evidence box of, I know this works. To me, that's
reinforcers success, right? Like having shown up for yourself, developing self-trust in those practices. I love the distinction that you made, and I feel like I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it, but something clicked for me when you said, like, taking it from just going to a teacher, or not just, but going to a teacher, receiving the medicine, and then administering the medicine to yourself at home. Right? Like being in that of like, I decide, which is something that you talk about a lot, deciding to, this is when I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And taking control. There's that healthy control of, I'm deciding to do this for myself right now. I'm deciding to show up for myself right now, which is a huge message that you're sending to your body.
Yes.
Right? There's a relational piece there that's happening. It's like, I show up for you. I am consistent with you. I love you. Yeah. Just like you would in any other relationship.
Yeah, that's so true. I really like that, because it is, the connection with ourselves is about our relationship with all the parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
including our bodies.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And that's part of my big vision, is that I create the conditions for women to realize that they are their own healers, that they are their own leaders. So my end game is never for you to rely on me. It's for you to rely on you.
Yes.
And go off with blessing into the world and do what you came here to do. That's my vision.
Yeah, for women to recognize their co-creative power, right? How much power they have to shape and form their lives, and to receive what they want, what they desire.
They they've got the magic.
So many pieces come up for me here, but the piece that's coming up immediately is about being an energetic match. Just something that you talk about. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So part of my processing of challenges is through writing. So I wrote a piece on this quite recently, which at first glance it seems contradictory and it's quite hard to swallow, but it is. It doesn't matter how much you want something, if you're not an energetic match to it, you can't have it. You can't have it.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like immediately, the tantruming teenager comes out, stamping her feet. Like, I can't have it. It's like, no, you can't have it. You can't have it. So to become an energetic match, how to describe this? So there has to be a releasing of any sense of ownership or what's the word when you feel like it's yours, you like, oh, I can't remember, I can't think of the word, but there's a entitlement. Release that entitlement, and then you have to become what it is you say that you want.
Yes.
You have to become it. And you don't become it because you want it. You become it because you understand energy, and you understand that it can only work that way. There's a reason why you want that. There's a reason why you want that. It's because there's a part of you that wants to grow and flourish. Yeah. So if you couldn't love something about somebody else if you didn't recognize it first in yourself.
So what you're saying is that there's like when you desire something, let's say it's out there, right? And you feel like you're not there. What you're saying is that there's a part of you that recognizes that potential lies within you, and that your job now is to up level, right? To do the work to become that which you desire. Because that seed is already in you. It's just, you just need to water it and feed it and nourish it and allow it to grow and expand.
Yeah, and this is really interesting. What's kind of flashing up for me is memories of past relationships, and I know that I have sought out people who I have looked on with great awe and been like, oh, you're such an amazing teacher, or you're so confident, oh, you are so expressive, or all these things. And then this is, years and years ago. And now I'm kind of going, oh, yeah, because that was in me, but it needs to grow because it was so tiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as humans, like to a point, we are all a little bit self-obsessed. It's like, it's how we're built. And this is a good example of that. But I think there's also the piece that if you do end up connecting deeply or getting together with someone that you are not a full energetic match with, it kind of implodes because you, for whatever reason, it's like it's acquisitive. It's like you are wanting to get something. It's grabbing.
Yes.
Grabbing. Yes. Like I see this thing, I want it, I want to possess it.
Yeah.
You know, that's against everything. That nobody's sovereign there, nobody's at choice.
Yeah.
So it can't work out. Like it can't.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Irritating.
So let's get into story versus truth. What does truth mean to you and right now in your life where you are?
Right now, I know truth in my body. I've got a very finely tuned system of calibration, and I recognize what's true as it lands in my body. I think this is true for many people, certainly many women that I know, is when you are finely attuned to how your system works, you become super intuitive. So you get to sense things before they are known facts to you.
Okay.
And if I how do I say this? If it's important to me how something is received or how something is seen by another, then generally I'm in story. Generally. Because when it's my truth, it doesn't matter to me how it's received. Because it belongs to me, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of it or how they receive it.
Right. So the story in that.
If I have attachment, if I have like very strong attachment, or, you know, I'm very invested in how it's seen or what the outcome is going to be, then generally I'm in story, which is, you know, it's not a great way to kind of carry on. I mean, on a broader level, our stories are super important because that's part of our being here and being human. But how it kind of how invested we are in them, and whether we can see a distinction between the story and the essence of who we are, seems to be important.
Yeah. And stories usually are you know, are around our conditioning and socialization around being too much or not enough, or, you know, some of the things that you brought in earlier around attachment. I have to be received in a particular way. I have to be liked. I have to be valued, needing sort of an external validation and affirmation versus giving that and being anchored in that within yourself. And then, then being able to surrender, like, well, I don't know how you're going to receive me. And in fact, it doesn't ultimately matter. It might hurt, but it doesn't ultimately matter because I receive myself.
Yeah, I think there's something in the choice of it. When we're children, we don't have the choice.
That's right.
Our environments or our caregivers, but as adults, we do. So we get to choose, like, are these people in alignment with my truth? And if they are, then, you know, then we make those kind of either reparations, or we kind of invest in the connection.
Yeah.
Whereas if there's no resonance, or if there's conflict, or if there's like, no, their truth is just totally polar opposite to me, then maybe you choose wisely to not put yourself in that sphere.
Yeah.
Because being a grown-up is about hard choices a lot of the time. So yeah, none of this stuff's easy.
Bad news, folks. It's not easy.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And like, what comes up for me right now is being in the complexity of all of it.
Yeah.
Being able to hold.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you talk about a lot too, is about being able to hold that capacity in your body.
Yeah.
And that comes with the practice of self-mastery, of knowing yourself, of sovereignty, is being able to hold all of your experiences. And yes, even when it's fucking messy, when you're fucking falling apart, when you're grieving and can barely keep your head above water, being able to be even in that.
Yeah.
I think that's especially when that, I know that for me, when that self-mastery is really tested and you're crawling on the ground and you're like, oh my God, this fucking hurts.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it is, again, that's something else that I have this vision of this evidence box that I have in my head. Where I just put all these, I wrap very tenderly these experiences and these pieces of where I have been really strong, or I've been really wise, or things have gone my way, and like wrap them up and just keep them in this evidence box. It's like, just go and have a look in there. It's okay, but I do think there's such a fine balance between this self-reliance and then also the kind of vulnerability of being open to connection and being seen in your mess, because it's such a big subject to explore. But I'm very aware that there are so many descriptors for all the different ways of being, and there are so many of them that can be seen as dysfunctional or not optimum. And then also, it's part of being human. These are our coping mechanisms, and this is how we have learned to make sense of the world and to survive up to this point. So I think, in a way, like, don't make those your identity. Don't be like, oh yeah, well, I'm prone to this, I'm prone to that. Or it's like, well, you're a human being, like, you're having an experience.
Yeah.
And okay, if today you're in collapse, it just means you've got the language to describe what's happening. Maybe just have the language and like leave the judgment to the side, because I just don't feel like that is helpful in any sense,
Yeah.
We have to be our own best allies.
Yeah. And can you say a little bit more about identity as you're experiencing right now, or dissolution of identity?
Yeah, it comes back again to this attachment in my mind. It's something that lots of people like to hook onto because of those things that I just said. It's like, oh, this is how I've made sense of the world, and this is how I've survived. So I am this, I am that, I have these needs, or I have this label, and it's a bit, it's restrictive. For me, I think it's restrictive. We are so multifaceted, and we are so capable that the minute you start to limit yourself to an identity, you start to also restrict the ways in which you can interact with the people around you and the world around you. So you end up, like, my experience of this is, you end up arguing for your limitations.
Yes.
It's like, why would you do that?
What would be an example of that? What would be an example of that?
Oh God. Okay.
I love this shit.
Put me on the spot. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a contraction, because I feel like, oh God, I move very quickly into a territory of being really offensive. If I start giving distinct examples.
But this is the truth telling piece, right? This is the part where the truth isn't convenient. It doesn't feel good, but it's fucking true. And let's just pull off the fucking Band-Aid already and look at the sore that's underneath and begin to like really heal it. Let's put some actual medicine on it.
So something that comes to mind immediately is adults who cling to the story of their trauma. Okay, so and this, it feels edgy even just to describe it. No people involved, because I have a huge amount of empathy and a huge amount of compassion for everybody's trauma. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. But there is a problem when it gets to be your identity, when it gets to be how you present in the world, how you describe yourself, how you orient yourself. That is the problem, because you are stuck there. Like, you are glued there for all of the time that you're making that your identity. So there has to be some way of understanding and integrating what's happened, and it never has to be okay. It never has to be forgotten.
Right.
It's none of those things. It just means you need to know that you are more than that.
Yes.
You're more than what happened to you.
That's the difference. And that's what the healing does, is gets you from that place of identifying with the trauma to not transcending it, but integrating it and having it be part of your experience. And it also perhaps even informing your gifts, the value that you offer in your relationship to other people, etc.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, there was a big period of time where I saw the way that I was brought up as traumatic, as something that affected me very negatively. And I know now that it is a huge part of my gift. It's a huge part of why I'm able to do what I'm able to do right now.
Yeah.
And I feel very peaceful about the whole thing. I don't have a single little tiny drop left of resentment or any of that. And we're talking a lot of years here, but I do have that deep kind of embodied understanding now. Of like, oh, this is part of the whole.
Yes. Beautiful. Let's end here. And Jemima, I want you to share with listeners how they can find you, follow you. I know that at the time of this recording, you are about to begin your program, Reverence.
Yeah.
And I want to know how people want you to tell people how they can find you and follow you and get to know your work more.
Sure. Well, I really enjoy this kind of work, like showing up on video, showing up using my voice. So I do a lot of Facebook Lives or IGTVs, and they're like my two favorite ways to get in front of people and start interacting with people. So they can follow me there. The Reverence program is only for women, and this is the last time I'm running it until 2022. Yeah, I'm going to run it next year, but I think it won't be till about the same time next year. So yeah, so it's a 6-week immersion. We have live calls every week, and it's a really, really beautiful experience. The energy of it is always different, but this time it's a very tender, I've described it as like a newborn energy. There's a lot of gentleness. in it. And it's about connecting with our individual truth and with how we can sustain that dedication and that devotion to ourselves in order, you know, that we can find that deep connection with other people in our lives. And it's amazing. I started it off as like for single women, and I'm not doing that now. It's like, it's for everyone really, which is why next year I think I would like to include men, but I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. So this is the last women only event. So get in touch with me on Facebook or Instagram if you feel like you're called.
Yes. And listeners, Jemima has a Facebook group called the Connection School. Is that right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so valuable. You offer so much value in your Facebook lives, in that group, in IGTV. So definitely catch some more of this powerful, magical woman online.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. This was like, I feel it all in my chest and shoulders, like expansive and full and so nourished. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Eva. Bye-bye.